I'm gonna start by making a decadent one of my favorites. We're gonna be making some peanut butter brownies. I have everything laid out here. We're gonna start by melting our butter and chocolate chips. I'm actually using a double boiler to slowly melt the butter and chocolate chips. It actually helps to make the butter melt faster when you cut it into smaller pieces, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I have a stick of butter here. All right, so once you see the butter starting to melt, you're gonna add 1 cup of chocolate chips. So in my perfect brownie video, I said use high quality chocolate, but I've discovered that using just regular old chocolate chips actually gives you a more papery, thin crackle on top, but you can definitely use your favorite chocolate. I'm just using semi-sweet here, and you need a cup. Just let it melt slowly, and then once you see it kind of cooling, just give it a good mix. So I'm actually not gonna mix it all the way just because I'm gonna let the residual heat finish melting our chocolate. So I'm gonna take it off heat right now. You just want everything to look really soft like this, and it'll continue melting as we let it sit. Okay, so let's pull this off, put it on a trivet, and I'm gonna let it cool a little bit before we add it into everything else. Just give it another mix. Okay, it looks nice and glossy. Let's just let it hang out here, and then we're gonna work on the batter. So I'm gonna start by adding some eggs to a large mixing bowl. Okay, and now I'm just gonna whisk it up until it's nice and frothy. Cool. So I just like whisking it until it has like these bubbles on top. That'll help give us that crackly top, but I don't want to incorporate too much air because then it becomes like a meringue, and you don't want that. So now we're gonna add our sugars. I have some white sugar and brown sugar. If you guys want the full recipe, I'll have it in the description box below. A little bit of vanilla extract, some salt. All right, so now I'm just gonna whisk it all up one more time. So here I'm just mixing it until it becomes like a nice, thick, cohesive mixture. You don't have to worry about the sugars melting or anything. This looks about good. And then I'm gonna add in our chocolate mixture. Give it another quick stir just to make sure everything's incorporated. You can tell it's a lot cooler now. So I'm just gonna dump the whole thing into the bowl and then mix it all again. Here it'll start looking very lava-like and very goopy, and that's exactly what you're looking for. And finally, to finish off our brownie batter, I'm gonna sprinkle in some flour. I like to distribute it across the bowl like this instead of just dumping it in one go. A tiny bit of baking powder just to aerate our brownies a little bit. This will keep it from feeling really dense. And of course, some cocoa powder. And now we're just gonna mix it just until everything's incorporated. Make sure not to over-mix it. And that looks really good. If you still see a little bit of lumps in there, don't even worry about it. It's kind of like pancake batter where these little lumps and bumps will just like disintegrate when you bake it off or cook it off. All right, let's transfer it into our baking pan. So whenever I make brownies or bars, I always line the baking pan with some parchment paper, and I've cut it just wide enough to fit. I usually don't do both sides just because I find that the little lip on the edge right here is enough to help me lift it up. But I definitely like the sling that helps me lift everything out later. I'll show you later. Now we have our batter. I'm just gonna pour it right in. I'm just gonna spread the batter to cover the pan. And you guys are probably thinking, like, Zung, where does the peanut butter play in? I'm about to show you. This part doesn't have to be perfect, but this looks good. Just make sure the top is nice and smooth. And then we're gonna add our peanut butter. So here I already have my peanut butter mixture. It's literally just very creamy peanut butter, and I always use the natural one where it's just peanuts and salt in the ingredients. So you can find these at like Trader Joe's, Costco, and then I add a little bit of powdered sugar just to sweeten it up, but also to help it hold its structure. So what I'm gonna do is just artfully dollop some on here, and then we're gonna swirl it into the batter. Get some in the corners And then to make the swirls, I just like using a chopstick, and I use the larger edge just so I can have a little bit more control. And with it, I'm gonna just dip it into the peanut butter and create little swirls. This way it mixes into the batter as well. So this is where your inner Picasso really comes out. You can stop if you think that the swirls look good, or you can just keep mixing it to create like a starry night type of vibe. But I think I like how this looks. And especially in this corner right here, I like how it just really like mixes in with the batter, so you get some like actually inside too. All right, this looks good. So let's go ahead and bake it off. I'm gonna bake it in the oven preheated at 350 degrees for 22 minutes. So once it's done, just make sure to pull it out and let it sit and cool for 1 hour. I know it's gonna be hard, but trust me, it'll be so much easier to cut and enjoy afterwards. All right, so I've already let mine cool for an hour here, and look how beautiful. It looks beautiful. I just love those swirls. But as I mentioned earlier, I put in the sling to make it easier to pop out. I'm gonna put it on a cutting board, and also look like your pan stays clean-ish. We're gonna cut this into 9 pieces. And here is our deliciously fudgy peanut butter swirled brownies. You can see the gooiness of the brownies here, and then the peanut butter on top isn't super set. It's still soft, like it's set, but it's not hard. I don't know how to explain it. You're just gonna have to make it yourself. But let's give it a try. Ooey gooey piece of heaven. I need a glass of milk with this for sure. What do you guys think? Are you more of a chocolate person, or do you prefer fruity desserts? Actually though, I do want to mention that even though today I made this with a peanut butter, you can totally substitute the peanut butter for salted caramel. Oh, I've done that before and it's amazing.